Hello again everyone, my name is James Shotwell, this is the Music Biz channel, and today we have to do something that we haven't done in many months, which is talk about the coronavirus. So over the last several weeks, you have no doubt heard about the Omicron variant and the Delta variant and how the collision of those two variants is causing a lot of problems around the world. In fact, this week, the week after Christmas 2021, the United States recorded its highest daily new case rate ever in the pandemic. It was about 540,000 new cases. A little bit more than that, maybe a little bit less. Don't quote me, I'm not a scientist. So with this fresh wave of horrors rolling into our news feeds, it's no surprise that the music industry is starting to panic. Now the panic has never really went away. I mean, since March 2020, everyone has kind of been on edge. But I would say that since summer of 2021, people have definitely shifted back a gear a bit. Shows have been happening, tours have been happening, and yes, here and there tours have been canceled because somebody got COVID, but by and large, it hasn't really shut things down again. Until this week. And that's why we need to be talking about it. Now, in recent weeks, the music industry has seen a drastic uptick in the amount of cases, the amount of cancellations, and the amount of postponements, and it's all about these variants. Now, if we're following what's happening on the East Coast, New York City has definitely been a hub of this activity. Tons of people getting sick there, lots of shows getting canceled. But being how the mainstream media, and I hate to use that phrase because I know it can be incendiary, but how all the big news places tend to cover what's happening in New York City as if it's what's happening in Kansas or North Dakota or Iowa, everyone seems to believe that the Omicron variant is spreading across America the exact same way that it is happening in New York City. And as a result, people are, unsurprisingly, scared. So in recent weeks, there have been a lot of cancellations due to people actually getting sick, but there's been this fresh wave of cancellations from artists being afraid of getting people sick. And that's leading us to an interesting place, because as it stands right now, President Joe Biden and his administration seem to have zero plans to issue any kind of shutdown, lockdown measures whatsoever. They are all about moving forward. In fact, if you caught the statement that the White House made just before Christmas about the Omicron variant, they basically said that if you're boosted and vaccinated, you'll be fine this holiday season. And if you're not, you're probably going to get sick and die, and that's just the way that things are. So when you say things like that, it makes people believe that we're probably not entering a secondary lockdown, which means that it's on artists and their teams, not to mention all the venue owners and promoters around the country, to decide what's best for concert goers, as well as concert goers themselves. But as long as shows are happening, it seems safe to say that some people will go, and the question falls to who is responsible for deciding what's the right thing to do. And how do we know what it is? If we look strictly at the facts, people who are vaccinated and boosted, more often than not, if they contract the Omicron variant, what happens is they experience something similar to a cold. They have headaches, they have a light cough, but they are not experiencing all the symptoms that people were having with other COVID variants. And so that's part of what's happening here is people are like, well, I'm vaccinated and I'm boosted. I'll take 5 or 10 days off if I get sick, but then I want to get back out there, so I don't want to cancel things. But then there's all these people that are still not vaccinated, and some of those people are touring around the country in bands or as part of crews, or maybe they're working at venues and they're coming in contact with tons of people all the time, and they are carrying the virus, and maybe they get people sick, or maybe they don't. Maybe they give them the Omicron variant, or maybe they give them the Delta variant, or maybe they give them some new variant that we have yet to even discover, because that's the reality that we live in. And then on top of this, there's the questions of what happens if people find out that you have COVID. So for the longest time, at least up until very, very recently, it seemed like people treated having COVID like a grave mistake, like you were drunk driving and got caught. How could you possibly get COVID? But these new variants, they're so easily transmissible that energy is starting to shift slightly. People are more open about the fact that they got COVID. They're telling people what their experiences are about, and that's good, but those are individual people. When we start talking about musicians and venues, we're talking about businesses, we're talking about brands, we're talking about things where a lot of people have a vested interest in seeing that thing continue to succeed. So if there's a giant outbreak at a music venue, for example, and it can be traced back to that venue, that is bad news to that venue. They'll have to shut down, they'll have to clean, and they will probably reopen. It'll cost a ton of money. But if that venue can operate without a giant outbreak and without anything being traced back to them, sure, some people are going to get sick there. Sure, some people will come and never get sick. So if they can stay in that gray space where you can't really blame them for what happens, they're going to continue to operate. Maybe not the giant companies, Live Nation, AEG. They're going to implement policies of testing and everything like that because they have shareholders, they have people who they have to answer to. But for all the independents across America, all the small and mid-sized venues, That's the Wild West. Whatever they want to do is what's going to happen. And for most of these venues, they're pushing that responsibility off to the musicians. And the same rules apply. Do you want to be the musician who's known for getting 500 of their fans sick? Or do you want to be known as the musician who took precautions and canceled a tour because you were worried your fans were going to get sick? And 9 times out of 10, if you give people that option, they're going to choose the safe bet because they're worried about the long game. But again, it's all way too messy right now. I mean, New Year's Eve is in a few days. Dozens of artists have canceled their New Year's Eve shows. Dozens more are still going to perform. Why and why not is as varied as you can possibly imagine. Some people are sick, some people are scared of getting sick, some people just don't give a damn, and they say that you should approach at your own risk. And that last one is what I want to talk about before we end this video. Now, this has been said by people since the very beginning of the pandemic, but we are entering this new phase now where it needs to be revisited by the music industry at large, because what we do in the next few weeks will be very, very important. Now, we can hope that the Omicron variant and all subsequent variants remain as tame as they appear to be, meaning that if somebody is vaccinated, and especially if they're boosted, the symptoms are not that bad, they don't end up hospitalized, and there's a very low likelihood of death. Now, if all the future variants stay that way, that would be fairly okay for us. We can manage that. But what if the variant after Omicron is worse? Or what if Delta surges in a way that we haven't previously seen and people start getting seriously sick? It looks like it's going to be on us to decide what's the right thing to do. And I want to speak briefly about the idea of individual responsibility. Now, I can't tell you what to do. I can't tell you how to care about others, but I believe that it's a very golden rule that we should treat everyone the way that we ask them to treat us. So I don't want you to get me sick. I don't want to get you sick. So I think at the bare minimum, as musicians, as music professionals, we should be encouraging people to test regularly, get vaccinated, get boosted, and if you get sick, take time out. Now, I don't personally believe that we are going to go back into lockdown. So if you've been watching this video thinking that that's where I was going with this, it's not going to happen. But it is going to be on us to save this industry, because if a bunch of venues start getting tagged as the source, if the news starts thinking concerts are where COVID is spreading, or concerts with this specific artist are where COVID is spreading, that's going to be bad news, not just for that individual artist or just for the artist on the road, but for our community as a whole. We cannot become the latest target of people trying to figure out who's responsible for COVID. We have to be smarter about this. We have to do testing. We have to require vaccination cards. We have to wear masks when we're in venues. Right now and moving forward, this industry, as it has pretty much always been, is going to have to take care of itself. So if you want concerts to continue, if you want to be able to tour, if you want to be able to go to shows, if you want to be able to have a venue in your hometown, take care of one another. I can't tell you what's going to happen with this variant, but I can tell you with most certainty that we are not going to go back into a lockdown, barring any unforeseen developments. So for the time being, take care of each other. And if you can help one another out by wearing a mask or getting vaccinated, do it. And if you feel like that goes against your principles, I completely understand that. But please try to calculate how much you need to have fun versus how much other people need to get home to see their families. That's all I ask. Now, I tell you all of that because today, on December 29th, I'm going to a gig. I am vaccinated, I am boosted, I plan on wearing a mask the entire time. I don't think we have to show vaccination cards, but if we do, I have mine. But I'm going to go to the gig and I'm going to hang out in the back. I'm not quite ready to be up front at the rail just yet, but live music is back and I don't want it to go away, which is why I made this video, which is why I want you to take care of yourself and the people around you. But if you need even more help on navigating the music industry, because 2022 is right around the corner, things are going to get crazy really fast and we need to be prepared for what this new year has in store, well then that's why you should subscribe to the Music Biz channel. We bring you everything you need to know about succeeding in the modern music industry. We also talk about headlines, developing trends, and so much more. So if you haven't done so already, click that little button down below. And if you have my sincerest thanks. I know it's been a minute since I've been here, but we had Christmas. I had my wonderful other half move in here. It's been a good life over here. I hope the same is true for you. I will be back in 2022 with so much content, you will be surprised that I was able to make it all. But until then, take care of yourself because you deserve it.